At this point, I'm just going to assume that you watched the videos for either 38, 39, or 40, and you have heard my spiel about the dumb summaries for these passages. Passage 1 is against equality, and passage 2 is in favor of equality for the two sexes, to the two genders. So we're going to use that to guide us, but we also need to make sure we do exactly what the question is telling us. We need to go to these lines and try to understand, what does Tocqueville mean by the great principle of political economy? So 38 to 39, what's he saying? That's up here. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit before just to get the context. They admit that as nature has appointed such wide differences between the physical and moral constitution of man and woman, so differences between men and women, her manifest design was to give a distinct employment to their various faculties, and they hold that improvement does not consist in making beings so dissimilar do pretty nearly the same things. Oof, I'm getting lost in this. But in getting each of them to fulfill their respective tasks in the best possible manner. So remember, I said he's against equality. He's saying men and women should do different things here, right? The Americans have applied to the sexes the great principle of political economy, which governs the manufacture of our age. By carefully dividing the duties of man from those of woman, he's being really clear, in order that the great work of society may be better carried on. So he's saying that if men do one thing and women do a different thing, that is good. So I'm going to say inequality here is good, is what Tocqueville is saying. Right? So it's kind of reversing the dumb summaries before. Right? He's saying equality is bad. Here he is saying inequality is good. Because of our dumb summaries, we would know that Mill would disagree with that. Right? So Mill would say inequality bad. Right? So that's Mill's view. So we're looking for a choice that kind of says the same thing. Inequality bad. This is what dumb summaries are, right? They're not complicated. Inequality bad is about as dumb as it gets. So inequality bad. It prevents many men and women from developing to their full potential. So it, in this case, is the great principle of political economy, which is a fancy old-timey way of saying inequality, right? Like, inequality is bad because it prevents many men and women from developing to their full potential. Yeah, that seems to match with inequality bad. Let's keep going. Inequality makes it difficult for men and women to sympathize with each other. Well, that may be true, but Mill isn't really talking about how people feel, right? Sympathy is emotion. And so her point is more about, what jobs are available, right? We read that for another question earlier on, is who should be able to take certain jobs. And Tocqueville also here is talking about jobs, right? Political economy, he's talking about having different roles and positions for men and women. And so we don't really want to get into how the men and women feel about each other. That's just drifting too far from the point. C, inequality unintentionally furthers the cause of gender equality. So notice when I slip in that summary word, this actually becomes a really obviously bad choice. Inequality furthers the cause of equality. That doesn't make any sense. This is a choice that a lot of people pick because they just don't understand what they're being asked, right? We're being asked what Mill would say about Tocqueville. So Mill disagrees with Tocqueville. Mill is in favor of equality. So choice C is saying that Mill would say that Tocqueville is helping, furthering the cause of equality. But he's against equality. So it's flipping their meaning, I guess. It's switching who believes what in a weird way. So C is just nonsensical. It's saying that inequality causes equality. That's not even logical. Doesn't make any sense. D, inequality guarantees that women take occupations that men are better suited to perform. Well, no, equality might do that, but here's the point, is the whole idea of men being better suited to perform certain things, Mill disagrees with that idea. She's saying that, if you're good at something, you're good at it. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. If men are better at something, then they will continue to have that job because that's the way it goes. So, again, this choice is not hitting up to our dumb summary. It's kind of reversing it. So that makes A right. It prevents inequality, prevents men and women from developing their full potential, because then they can't apply to the same jobs, and we can't do what we're best at because we're limited based on our gender. So yeah, it's complicated, but again, the more we can simplify things and dumb them down, the better off we're going to be. And most of the time, the dumb version is going to be sufficient to get it right, especially on the comparative passage where we know that there's a disagreement. And so we're kind of just, through all 4 of these comparative questions, we're really just looking for choices that just repeat the same idea. Disagreement, disagreement, disagreement. That's why, the dumber you keep it, the better, because you're more likely to notice whether they agree or they disagree. Whereas if you get all into the weeds about what they're saying, the difference between the 2 passages tends to blur together. And for as long as possible and as much as possible, we want to really understand the distinctiveness of the 2 passages. We want them to be separate enough in our minds that we can tell them apart. And so don't get too complicated. Keep them dumb for as long as possible, and most of the time that'll be enough to get the answers. And you can always think more deeply, add more information as you need to, but don't do more work than you need.